very, very busy, coming off Magadi Road on this other side, and then joining through to the Nyasirem roundabout, bumper to bumper. Some of that will go off towards Raila Odinga Way. And so that has just popped up out of nowhere, and it is really crazy, at least for now. So watch out for that. Limuru Road also busy as you're approaching Kitisuru out towards Muthaiga. That is busy as well. The Eastern Bypass, chocker blocked, bumper to bumper in both directions. North Airport Road through the Embakasi Loop from Outer Ring and inbound Outer Ring. Kangunda Road also extremely busy. We thought that Friday traffic was not going to be too crazy, but then look at the Thika Superhighway coming in all the way from Kahawa through towards Clayworks out towards Kasarani. Very busy traffic as well this morning. Let's see what happens as we get into it and through it. We'll talk Spice FM KE on X hashtag the Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 9 minutes after 8, and thank you for keeping it locked right here on Spice FM, Kenya's biggest conversation. We broadcast from Nairobi to the world every day. So, Siti, I was called by a gentleman called Kenneth Kiriga.
Yes.
He lives and works in Voi.
In Voi?
All
right.
Ni mtaita yule jamaa.
Anatoka sehemu za Taita.
Kiriga ile.
Yes.
Kiriga ile Taita.
Alikwambia nini?
Ansikiza show yetu sana.
Thank you so much bwana Kiriga. Asante sana.
Nasema kusalimia sana.
Thank you.
Na nasalimia Sister Du.
Sister Du.
It's okay, no.
Makubali salamu.
Nimekubali salamu.
Yeah. This guy is one of those opinion leaders in Voi. Yeah, and I think even the people are whispering to him and telling him, Bana, you have led our opinions. So you go and lead us. You know, so I asked him, Bana, how do you say count in Kitaita? He said, yeah. They were right when they told you that to say count in Taita is Tala. Yeah, Tala. You know what Tala is? Tala is counting. Tala is that app that is not just an app. Tala is your companion in everything that you do, because it works with you financially, it walks with you, walks the journey with you. It is licensed and regulated by the Central Bank of Kenya, and also licensed with the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. So all the data that you give to Tala is basically, it has to operate within the law on what it does with it. Download Tala today on Google Play, and then it's a simple registration process. Some information that they ask you, you give them, know your customer, because the information that you give them is what they use to know, all right, we can trust Ndu to lend her some money. When she asks us for 5,000 shillings, we give her the 5,000 shillings. And as she continues borrowing and paying, we increase the credit limits. Yeah? It goes up like that. Senor. Yeah, Tala on Google Play. Tomorrow, City, we are meeting in Parklands.
Yes, we are at the Gallant Hall, to be specific. Yes, and what we're meeting for begins at 9 a.m. and it's supposed to end at around 1, but it's not just negotiable. It's flexible. 1 a.m. can move on to 2, 3, 4 p.m. Yes, did I say p.m.?
You said a.m.
A.m. Sorry, let me start again.
Okay.
The time is 9 a.m., 1 p.m. onwards. And so please don't go there very late.
But onwards for those that are already there. Not that you check in at 3.
No. If it finds you there and there are things you need to discuss, they will not tell you it's 1 p.m. and you now must go. No. Whatever took you there will be concluded before you leave. Now, how do you get there? You register. How do you register? You go to www.cradle.com. When you register, then this will enable you to get an invitation. When you get an invitation, you will then be the very, 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 very fortunate person who has an opportunity to get direct access to top universities in Ireland, because the representatives will be there. And they'll give you the details of what you need in order to enroll for these universities. You'll also discover career opportunities, meaning you've studied, you've finished. What do you do thereafter? Are there jobs? Yes, there are, because Ireland is essentially Europe's headquarters for some of the most prominent industries that exist within Europe. And then you'll get expert visa guidance. Yes.
Very good. Let's talk about food, nutrition, children, school-going children in school. Food for Education is an organization that we had the founder here one time, and she was telling us about how they founded Food for Education, how then they started working with various places, and now they are the big partner with the Nairobi City County Government in the Dishina County program, Food for Education, cooking and distributing food and making sure that children are getting a nutritious meal every day. Shalom Ndiku is a policy, legal, and sustainability expert at Food for Education. He's our guest for the next hour. Shalom, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Thank you so much for having me.
Karibu sana. Yeah, you look well fed.
I am. I try my best.
Very good. And well educated.
I don't know about that. I'll try.
Food for Education. Karibu sana. City will give you the day's proverb. And this week the proverbs are from?
DRC.
DRC.
Yes. Democratic.
The one for Kinshasa.
Kinshasa.
Okay.
From Mazaire.
You have to say it slowly. Because then the sh and the s will just sort of
We'll
like
think on you.
mingle. Yes, and I'll be Kinsasaing. Yes.
Or Rububash.
Or now that one, Rubumbachi. Rumbu.
Hey, okay.
Anyway, interesting country, this one. Yes, formerly Zaire.
Yes.
It had its issues, and those issues have been costly.
True.
Many lives have been lost.
True.
When they had their war, 5.4 million plus died. You know, that's not a small number.
It's very high number.
It's massive.
Serious. No, it's huge. Right. Imitating things led the frog to have his ears cut.
Imitating things led the frog to have his ears cut. Shalom. How do you interpret this proverb?
I think it emphasizes something around originality, right? And being yourself. Because clearly the frog did not have any identity, might not have had any voice of its own. So cutting those ears may have required it then to be original and actually not imitate what it's hearing, but actually then voice out something that's original and authentic to itself. I don't know if that's me overthinking or that's what other guests said.
You're allowed to overthink here.
What's wrong with overthinking?
Really, you're even allowed to say what other people have said. Yeah, all those things. The key thing is you interact with the proverb and you tell us what you think.
the
If that's what you
interpretation
think,
of
then that is good.
That is my interpretation, City.
It's a good interpretation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. So for those that have been living under a rock and without ears, what is Food for Education?
Food for Education is a non-profit. We were started in 2012 by our founder, who you mentioned, Eric, was here, Wawira Njiru. And our main goal is to ensure that no child goes hungry, right? Particularly children in schools, in our public schools. 2012, we're feeding 25 children. And fast forward to today, we're feeding 450,000 learners every single day in ECDs and primary schools across the country in 10 counties. And we do that through centralized kitchens. We have almost 30 of those. And then we also do it through decentralized kitchens that are spread across various counties too. And really, Eric, our goal is to make sure that because a hungry child cannot learn, they must be fed so that they can ensure they're staying in school, they're performing in school, and their nutrition and health is still to create that future human being who will be productive to this economy and society.
Are you only doing lunch, or are you also doing breakfast, tea break like this, China mandas and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Mind the boiro as you go.
So for us, obviously, one of our core tenets is these meals must be nutritious. So mostly we do lunch, but we also provide porridge for certain learners in Muranga County. So in Muranga County, we provide porridge, but in the other
time?
9 counties, we provide porridge at 10 for the ECD learners. This is a partnership with Muranga County, and they fully subsidize this for the ECD learners. And for us, maybe mandazi might not be the most nutritious. So this porridge is fortified, it is healthy, and really research shows that actually giving a young child at that age this fortified cup of porridge is actually quite enriching for them.
So why lunch? Because it seems like your main entry point is the lunch. Why lunch?
I think lunch strategically also because the most common school meal for any child going to school in the world is lunch. If you're not boarding, if you're a day learner, lunch is the most important one. So the assumption is that breakfast will be provided at home, supper or dinner will be provided at home after school. But the reality is that's not the case. So lunch holds this central place for us as a community, and that's why we chose to provide it. It works within that school calendar.
What have we seen? I mean, I think you gave a little bit of that at the beginning, but what have we seen is the direct effect of children having a nutritious meal during the day, or look, at any time, and then, but now as pertains to schooling and knowledge retention and all of that, what have we seen? Is a direct correlation?
Perfect. Thanks for that question too. So what we've seen is, I think one of the biggest outcomes is around education, right? Children are coming to school because of this meal, right? We're seeing attendance numbers going up. For example, in Nairobi County, Eric, you mentioned Dishina County, which we're doing in partnership with the county government of Nairobi City. We've seen attendance go up to about 95% too, right? Second, we're seeing enrollment. Children are enrolling in school, right? Parents whose children may not have been coming to school actually encouraging to go because of a meal. Remember, our poverty levels in urban and informal settlements in some of our rural areas are really high. So the power of a meal is a drawing factor. And then third, educationally, we're seeing performance improvement, right? Teachers are telling us this. We have, teams that assess this data, and they're seeing that children are actually performing slightly better, particularly where you have what we call sort of universal feeding. For example, in Mombasa, we have a partnership with the county government, and here the county government fully subsidizes a meal for all ECD learners, and it shows that actually these children who are eating every day for free because the county government is investing in them and school feeding are actually performing better than their peers. Yeah.
So let's do a little bit of, just tracing. We say that if in a school, for example, and what you can see, Shalom, is very clear, that if a school had 700 students, right, and if, give or take, 500 of them were attending school regularly, and the introduction of the school feeding program meant that you had a hot lunch every day. What you're saying is that after however many months, maybe you can tell us what that number is that we then now have seen that now you have 650, 680 students attending school, and you can trace this to because there was a hot lunch provided. We can see.
We can see it, right? So the way in which we assess and analyze this is that we send people to the ground. We have teams that assess this data, right, going to schools to look at enrollment numbers before the school meals program came in. So, for example, this year we expanded to Kakamega, right? And Kakamega has only served for part of term 3, right? But we had people on the ground before the program kicked off assessing various data sets, looking at indicators, so that, for example, as you mentioned, if that school population, ideally at the beginning of the term, had 700 learners, only 500 are the ones who are coming before. That's our baseline data, right? But once the program comes in, we'll then do mid-evaluations, end evaluations to keep assessing what those trends are, right? And that data shows that, yes, enrollment is going up. Yes, attendance is going up. Yes, performance is being impacted positively because of that. So we invest actually in finding that out.
But then, if we talk about enrollment.
Yes, sir.
In Nairobi, for instance, are you providing a meal to all schools in Nairobi?
Yes.
Formal, informal?
Formal schools.
Okay. So why not informal? If the biggest burden here is in the informal settlements. And we know that we don't have formal schools in informal settlements. Why the focus then on the formal, where you know that your biggest captive area and your focus should be on the informal?
And I think that's a very fair question, Eric. So one thing about the Nairobi program is that we've come on board and it's been phased, right? We started it in 2023. We started off with a group of about 70,000, and only last term did we get to the full figure of 250,000, right? So it's phased. Now, the second thing, obviously, is that a lot of learners from informal settlements will still go to these public schools. The Dishina County program is a tripartite relationship between the county government of Nairobi, ourselves as the implementer, but also the Ministry of Education. Because of the fact that primary schools are benefiting from that, the MOE had to be involved.
Yeah.
Now, so you're looking at about 200 schools that are formally recognized by the MOE and the county as well. There are conversations that are happening. Actually, even last week, His Excellency Governor Sakaja has shown an interest in wanting to ensure that informal schools are added to the program. Now, for us, we'd need to ask ourselves a number of questions, right? The first being the logistics of it all. For our school meal programs, we rely on the kitchens to cook the meal, to cook the food that will then go to these schools, right? So we need reliable road transport, we need access, we need the environment to be safe. So those are some of the questions that we're asking ourselves as we consider the possibility of that. So it's actually quite a big priority for the next phase of the program. But those are conversations that are still ongoing to ensure that those children that are most vulnerable are not left behind.
Okay, so with an increased numbers in enrollment, have your assessors been able to speak to these learners to find out where were you before we started bringing the food? Were you going to school? Are the teachers telling you that this is a child who's come here, never been to school, but now is in school?
Yes, we do have some anecdotes, I think, from the learners, but even more so some of the parents, right? Because the parents can convey that clearly. And parents, testify that for them, this is a game changer, right? They don't have to worry about spending that money, of which they have little, to purchase that lunch. So for them, it saves. But two, it's also a nutritional gain. Right, those mandazis mentioned by Eric earlier, that popsicle out there that is filled with who knows what and what color mixed with what chemicals, are what were sold outside the school. Some other vendors might sell products that parents might have questions around. So parents have actually been grateful for that. It's also a savings in terms of cost for them. So on average, school feeding programs in Kenya, or the cost of food might cost around 40, 50 shillings, right? But that has been reduced to about half of that. For the teachers as well, the teachers note that the kids are paying attention. And in paying attention, they're alert, they're awake, they're engaging, and they're learning, right? So we do have those anecdotes across the country from various teachers that are pointing out to actually that
Shalom,
change.
where were the kids that have now started enrolling in school?
Sorry, say that again, Eric?
Where were the children before?
Where were the
Because
children?
we are seeing an increase in enrollment numbers and also an increase in continuous attendance numbers. What was happening before? Where were they?
A number of them were not in school, right? Or they were coming to school sporadically, right? Because of that reliability. Knowing
were
that
just at
if there's no
home.
milk,
Yeah.
they were at home. A number of
Yeah.
them were at home.
Yeah.
A number of them would come in, but not as reliable.
Okay.
Not as reliably, yeah.
Because of a meal?
Because of a meal. A meal is powerful, Eric. If you think about the hunger you have as an adult, transpose that to a younger version of yourself and what it means just for that meal. As I mentioned prior, in a number of communities within this country, even just getting a meal at home is not a guarantee, right? So knowing that a meal is guaranteed, or it's very affordable, it's 5 shillings, for example, in Nairobi, it's free in some other counties, that is a powerful enticer to actually pull a child.
I see it, and I don't really have an argument against it. I'm just trying to understand this thinking. So the parent wants their child to be in school because of very many factors.
Absolutely.
Safety is one of them, right? If I leave my child at home, I don't know who's taking care of my child. If my child goes to school, at least I know where my child is. That's number one.
True.
Number two, if I didn't have a meal at home to feed my child, sending them to school would not be because I don't have a meal in school, or right? So the meal issue, there's no meal at home, there's no meal in school, but there's the security. There's security in school, there's no security at home. So that's why I'm wondering, why were the children not going to school? It can't only be because of the meal.
It is not only because of that, but it's a significant reason, I would say. Yeah. Just because it's fundamental to, I think, our existence, right? At the end of the day, we need to eat to survive. And if we can't eat, then we'll go out there and look for other ways. And you'll find these children out there not taking part in school. But then now, because of that pull, I think it adds something else to the educational experience. And I think that's the case I'd make. But I think you're right. There are many reasons why a child would go to school. But for us, our reason is central. It's a need that is being provided. Yeah.
If you're talking of 250,000 students now
Yes.
benefiting from that program,
That's in Nairobi alone.
That's
right?
in Nairobi alone.
Yes.
Countrywide is?
450,000
Okay.
450,000.
nationwide. Yeah.
All right. Now, you must have then understood how many more would need this sort of.
Yeah.
How many more would need?
So, we have about 10 million to 12 million, the data changes, children in primary schools within the country,
Yes.
right? The government has a school feeding program that feeds about 2.5 million of them, right? For us, our ambition is by 2027 CT to feed 1 million children.
Of these 10 million, let me ask the
Yes.
question, if I may. How many actually need to be fed? Meaning, they are poor and they cannot afford to feed themselves. Because the discussion is about poverty. Yes.
Unless I use sort of estimates and deductions.
Estimates
right?
are good.
Let's work with that, right? So if we have 10 million, right,
Yes.
total across all 47 counties, the government budgeted, financial year 2022-23, the government budgeted 5.8 billion that goes towards school feeding, right? Of that 5.8 billion, it went mostly to children in our ASAL counties and our semi-arid counties because that's where the biggest need is, right? But in a government report published last month, a scaling up plan on school feeding, it stated that only covers 40% of those 2.5 million kids. So that
The
means
5.8 billion.
yes, that 5.8 billion, right?
It's only a fifth.
Of that larger number, right? So that is under the government program, right? So the government does have an objective of ensuring that by 2030, there's a universal school feeding program. They want to feed all those 10 million children by 2030. But as you can see, that gap is quite significant, right? The financing is not there. So there is that big need for more children to be fed nationally.
Let's take a break. And then you'll also talk about then how do you bridge that gap.
Perfect.
Right? Because, well, food for education is not funding, it's only implementing. So there needs to be a funder for this school feeding program. 29 minutes to 9, Ndu, the best bank for personal banking is
Stanbic. It is Stanbic Bank. And we've been looking at ways in which you can actually be part of this. And some of those are just glaring. And we can understand that because Stanbic has been voted the best private bank in Kenya. Look at some of the things that they've been telling us to do. You can bank wisely, bank easily, you can bank joyfully. And today we're looking at planning wisely. How has Stanbic made it possible for you to do just this? Think about protecting your income. It's a way in which you can make sure that you have your income coming into an account for nominal fees per month. You can also get into a public, a health cover. It's the Heri Afia cover, which makes sure that your medical insurance is taken care of. You are guaranteed a retirement pension plan. When you get into it, that as you get towards the time of retirement, you have something that you can live on later. There's the Soma plan, which is something that you can do for education in the future. And there's also the Flexi Protect last expense cover for any members of your family or even for yourself. So here are ways which the number one private bank in Kenya is making it easier and better for you to live and plan wisely.
Very good. Still talking about your financial planning for retirement. Where is your money for retirement going? Is your employer taking money to Kenya's best pension fund, Taifa Pension Fund? Is he? Are they or are they not? They should. Why? Because there are over 200 unique employers who are actually with the Taifa Pension Fund. Over 500,000 members across Kenya. Over 7,000 active pensioners who are now drawing their pension from the Taifa Pension Fund. It is administered by Kenya's largest pension fund administrator, CPF Financial Services. There's many P's and F's in this story. Taifa Pension Fund, CPF. That is pension. All right, so those ones. www.taifapensionfund.com. That's www.taifapensionfund.com. Check it out and then go to HR and tell HR, where? Have you heard about it? Taifa Pension Fund. Put my money there. Don't take it anywhere else.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start
I know
your
mkuna
day.
talents, lakini mkuna vibe. It's time to discover East Africa's newest talent. Ni mda wa Kenya kuchachisha.
You don't